We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you'll stand for the pledge. Renee, would you lead us in the pledge, please? The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan. Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
William Harper.
Here.
Renee Curtis. Here. Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We have before you the minutes of the December the 12th meeting that we have not approved, and we also have the January the 9th meeting minutes. Do you have any changes or additions to either one of these meetings?
Move to approve,
minutes?
Mr. Chairman.
Both of them? We have a motion, they be approved, and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. They are approved. The first item of business we have is a request by Roger Griffin, who is requesting a special exemption approval for a major home business, and this is involving truck storage as related to a pressure washing business. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-2 involves the property at 2332 North Brunswick Court. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving truck storage relating to a pressure washing business upon a property located in the RM zoning district. This is a 2-acre parcel located at North Brunswick Court at the end of the cul-de-sac. This is the single-family residence here, and the applicant would like to obtain approval for the home-based business to store trucks related to his pressure washing business on site and trucks and related equipment. These are photos of some of the trucks. The application indicated in our regulations for major home-based businesses allow up to 2 business trucks related to a business. This application indicated that that would comply. However, on a site visit, there were more than 2 trucks that were related to the business activities. And so should the board desire, they could approve a waiver to allow additional business-related trucks on this property if they should they approve the special exception request. So a gravel road has been placed on the property for the trucks to enter the property. The trucks would be parked towards the rear of the property. As you can see, there's multiple cars. The applicant indicated that they had off-site employees that report to the site, that they park their cars there and then leave in the business vehicles and return with the business vehicles and pick up their cars and leave the site. The applicant indicated that this activity would primarily take place between 8 and 5 p.m. Saturday through Wednesday, according to the application. These are photos of the home site, and the day that I visited the site to post a sign, the applicant had one of the box trucks parked in the cul-de-sac, but you can see the neighboring property here on North Brunswick Court, as well as the adjacent neighbors in the other directions. We have received phone calls in regards to this request, and each of those calls had indicated a variety of concerns regarding noise, the amount of activity that's taking place on site, and each of the phone callers indicated their opposition to the proposed request. And so as you can see, this is kind of a rough layout of where the gravel road was placed on the property. There is a conservation easement back here. There's a creek that runs along the back of the property. There is a fence that runs from this property line to the other property line. So there's a portion of the property that is under a conservation easement. And that concludes our presentation.
Yes, sir.
I got a question for Danielle. How did this application come about? Was it from a complaint, or was it
Yes.
just, it was,
I apologize, I didn't mention that. It was the result of a call that was made into our office, or code enforcement. Code enforcement went out to the site and investigated the complaint, and then sent Mr. Griffin a letter. And he immediately responded, called our office, and is making an attempt to resolve that complaint by his application.
We will proceed in looking at this request by asking the person who is responsible to come forward to the podium and give us your name and any additional information you might have. And there may be some questions from our group here. After that, we will have a public hearing on this request. We ask those of you, and it looks like there's a lot of interest in this, that you try to keep your comments within the 3-minute time frame that we have. And I'm not strict on that, but I try to keep within that time frame, so we won't be here all night. We're pretty well aware. We've already received a report on this, so it's not something that's just new to us tonight. If you'll come around, please. To the podium over here.
Okay. Well, first of all,
Give us your name first.
my name is Roger Griffin, and I stay at 2332 North Brunswick. I'm the person that bought this property. Now, I did some research on this property before I purchased it. I was looking for a place that had space that I could use for parking. I've been had this truck wash business is what I do. I'm all mobile. I do no work at home, no more than repair. I do my own repairs. It's the only thing I do. The trucks that I have, they are only there maybe through the week. Monday, 2 units go out. They don't return to Wednesday. Tuesday, 2 units may go out. They don't return to Thursday. So at no time do I have 4 or 5 units at my house at one time, unless they all break down. So far, thank the Lord, I hadn't had that problem. But the research I done, when I bought this property, the grass was waist high. People that had it before me had horses, goats, and whatever, and I thought I had this thing off, but I'll just cut it off. Don't want it. Will you cut off? And I did the research on this property. This place also used to be a nursery before I got it. The road that I put in, I actually revived the road that was already there. Now, I spent about $7,000 in rock bringing it in so it wouldn't be mud in the neighborhood, it wouldn't be all kind of tracks and everything like that. I have to admit, when I first moved in the neighborhood, it was loud because I was parking on the street. I didn't have accuracy to park everything in the back. And now that you see the diagram that they got up there now. Just to the right of my pool, everything is parked in a circle. It's one way in, one way out. We have no electricity there, so there's no work going on at any time after dark. There's no work going on. The engines are just like a zero-turn lawnmower. That's what the engines are. So there's nothing like a race car or something like that, loud and all that. Now, also too is that after doing the research on it, it had the land that I needed and the space for the parking. And here in Murfreesboro, it's hard to find places to park. So I didn't see anything wrong with putting in a road where I was not tracking up the neighborhood. Also is that now everything is quiet. So who's ever may be here now that lives in this neighborhood could vouch for that. But if anybody got any questions or anything they want to say to me, I'm open.
Mr. Griffith, where have you been parking your trucks? Obviously, you're just not started in the business. Where have they been prior?
We moved over there from off Jefferson Pike.
Okay.
When we was over at Jefferson Pike.
One other question here. You mentioned you had put $7,000 into the road.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you realize that you needed to get approval for this before you built a road?
No, sir, I did not, because like I said, I was reviving a road that was already there. It wasn't nothing that
Of course, you can use the road for other things besides your business.
No, it's only just it's just a circle. It's just parking space. It's nothing that you can do anything else with. That's all it can be used for. It's just parking space.
Well, some things are not just appropriate for a subdivision like this where you're located in, and that's why we have this. We're such a growing community. Things that we used to do and be able to get away with, we can't anymore.
Well,
So it's something for you to think about. Do you have any other questions, Chair?
Griffin, I appreciate your effort in your business, but surely you realize that you were buying into a subdivision of residential property that's not suitable for businesses.
like I said, this place before I got it, it was a horse and goat place. It was also a nursery. I'm not talking about nursery for babies. I'm talking about tree nursery place. I got several trees that's still there now on this property from the nursery. So it was a business. Somebody was using it for a business. I'm just using it only for parking. So now, also too is what I don't understand is everybody here that got a job get up in the morning and go to work. They come home in the afternoon. Same thing I'm doing. We start the engine up and we leave. We're gone all day, or some of them don't even come home. 5 o'clock or whatever time we get in, we shut it off. There's no activity on my property whatsoever after dark. There's no activity on my property at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Where do you do your repairs?
I do my repairs there, but I can't do them until daylight. I don't have electricity there. So everything I do is within the hours of a person is up. It's nowhere I'm not working all night keeping nobody up, and I'm not getting up that early to wake nobody up. So it's just strictly, can I get that circle? The pattern that they got drawn is actually way too big, but it's to the right of the pool. So it's only taking up like a small area of my property. But the point of it is that what I don't understand, and maybe you guys can tell me now, is that I'm parking vehicle. I only have 3 vehicles that's labeled, only have 3 vehicles with engines. So maybe I need to learn now is, because I have 2 horse trailers, is that considered as an engine? Because I don't know that, because I need to know that. Is that considered as an engine? A trailer that's being pulled?
The trailer wouldn't necessarily be considered a business-related vehicle, but if you're storing equipment related to the business on those trailers, it would be considered outdoor storage.
Is there a problem with having outdoor storage?
Well, when it's business-related, then it becomes part of this review.
When it's business related? So,
If there's pressure washers or water tanks being stored on those trailers. I'm not saying that there are, I'm just providing you an answer.
okay, so understanding what you're saying, but nobody's never answering the question from what is the limitation? What is the expectation here? Am I allowed 3 engines? Am I allowed 3 trailers? What is the expectation here?
Well, I think we had a phone discussion regarding how many vehicles, and your application indicated 2, and that's what.
Well, the letter that I got indicates 3. And then also too, after talking to, I think his name is Doug, that the trailers is not,
We would not consider the trailers.
Okay.
They're personal trailers, but if they're storing equipment, we're not considering them business vehicles but if you're storing pressure washers or water tanks related to the business, then that's outdoor storage. That's not falling under the vehicle portion of it. That's outdoor storage.
okay, so my understanding is if that's outdoor storage, then that's not something that's actually what we are here talking about. We're here talking about, are we talking about? What's the complaint? Is it noisy? I need to know what's the complaint? What's the complaint?
You're running a business from your home.
I'm parking, that's what I'm doing. I'm parking vehicles on my property.
Mr.
I do
Griffin,
no work.
you have requested a business here. Okay? Your business is storing all of this on your property. Okay? Let's get that straight.
So,
Are there any other questions? Gary?
Earlier in your talk, you said something about you done your due diligence when you bought the property and stuff like that, and there was a previous business at this location. Did it ever occur that you might want to go a little further and do some more due diligence and check how that business got there, and do you need to do anything else to change that situation or find out more? It would have behooved you a little bit to went a little bit further and done more due diligence than what you had done, and you wouldn't be in this situation at this time. The business is the issue. It's not about personal storage or personal parking. It's the business. You're running a business out of your house, and you're parking your business vehicles at your house. That's why we're here today.
well, I don't know what you guys saying about this, because since this took place, I decided to do some writing and some looking on my own, and I see it everywhere. So I don't understand, and that's really blowing me, because just right up the street, I got a neighbor with the same thing in his yard, and I stopped to see that he get a letter. Never got one. Back behind me, joining my property, I got the same product that's sitting 2 or 3 trailers, all kinds of stuff on this property, and I know they're doing business because they use this stuff every day. I see the guys come in and leave. I asked them, did they get a letter? They didn't get a letter.
But here's the thing: if you see other places,
She should have seen it. She was there.
We'll be more than glad to take a complaint from you on others, but we're here today for this.
So
Hold
Okay.
up just a minute. Joe, do you have another question?
Yeah, I guess I'm having trouble to understand. You said you have 3 vehicles there, and they rotate in and out? You
No,
said There's
sir.
never more than 2 there?
I have 3 vehicles with an engine there. I
Okay.
have, the others, I have trailers.
On the weekend, do you work on the weekend too?
Yeah, that's our Monday. Saturday is our Monday.
So you're saying, you're telling us that you're only going to have 2 vehicles there at any one time?
At mostly one time, I got videos now for this whole week. At one time, never all of them is not there unless, like I say, unless they break down. Other than that, I got 1 to 2 pieces that's there
Okay.
in a given week's time.
How many cars are there? We've seen pictures where there
I
are.
got a bunch of cars. I got probably 7 cars. They all belongs to me.
Are they licensed?
Yes, every last one of them.
Mr.
about
Griffin,
your
how
employees?
many trucks do you park at night on your property?
I got my personal truck.
No, the business.
Business-wise?
Business.
Like I say, it's never no more than 2, 3 at the max that
3,
I ever have
okay.
had parked there.
How many employees do you have,
I got
including yourself?
5.
5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
They park there?
Well, I got a van, that's one of my vehicles, that I allow them to use to go back and forth to work. A couple of them do have cars, most of them don't have cars.
They park in your property?
If the 2 that's got cars, yes.
On these vehicles that you do have, is there the reverse alerts, those noises when you put a vehicle, a big box truck or something in reverse, they, like if UPS is
ma'am.
backing up, there's not any kind of noise
None
like
of
that?
that.
No alerts, no?
No alerts, none of that. Actually, there's nothing been modified on them. They're all factory. They all, the ones that do have to go through emissions, they all can do that.
You don't have any junk vehicles, nothing working, not working, none of that?
I got
kind of
one vehicle that I bought and that I pulled an engine out of to repair one of my other cars. Other than that, that's the only car that I have.
Mr. Griffiths, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments and your candid remarks before us. Thank you very much. We'll open this for a public hearing. Now, for those who'd like to speak on this, if you'll come to the podium, give us your name and any information you have. For those of you who'd like to speak, if you want to line up over here, we'll move it. Go ahead.
My name is Ronald Jones. My wife Kathy is sitting out here, and we live on Cross Creek Drive, which is behind the property that we're talking about. If I could see the map, my house is on the right side up to the right, all the way to the right.
Okay.
You know the right.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this. Let's zoom out, okay. Are you on Cross Creek?
1906.
Okay,
That's it right there.
right here.
That's
Okay.
where I lived for 30 years at that property. And our property is probably property line is no more than 100 feet from the one on Brunswick Court. And our backyard overlooks the creek that runs from Black Fox Count Spring, which is only about 300 yards east of our house. And the spring is a protected area, and one sign there tells the history of the spring and about Black Fox, which the school is named after, was an Indian chief. And the city has a sign up there that says, "Do not disturb a protected area, City of Murfreesboro." The creek flows from the spring and goes down behind the properties, the ones on Brunswick and also the ones on Cross Creek Drive. And it somewhat follows the property lines. There's steep grade from the creek up to the houses. So that allows everyone on both sides of the creek to see into everyone else's backyard. I can see about 10 backyards from my property. My wife and I get up every morning. I'm retired, and I get up every morning and sit at the deck door of my house, and I look out and we watch birds, and we feed birds and squirrels and such. And I looked out there and noticed several large trucks and different things parked in the backyard 100 feet from our property. And I thought, what's going on here? And I thought maybe it was a tree trimming business or somebody coming there trimming trees, but then all these trucks were getting stuck and they were having to be pulled up and up this grade. And that went on for weeks, trucks getting stuck. Then, after that, I started seeing gravel being brought in with a skid loader and made a circular road that was, that you have the diagram for that was put back there. And I've got some pictures here that I took Sunday and Monday. I don't know if they'll help you any, but this is, you can see one truck parked up on the top of the hill. This is a grade going up from the creek up. When they used to try to pull up this grade when it was just mud, they would get stuck all the time. So they had to put in the gravel to be able to get out. That's one truck up there. You can still see it in the center of the picture up there. And there's one truck down here with flatbed with a tank on it, small tank. And then there's a cargo trailer and another truck. On this day, which was Sunday, I think, there was 5 trucks parked on that area and the cargo trailer and 2 more open trailers. So that was on a Sunday. And this fence line here is very close to the creek. And this fence line is also very close to the adjoining properties on the other side of the creek, just feet away. Yes, I'm sorry. Could you roll okay, that's 2 of the trucks that are sitting there parked down closer to the creek. Go ahead. And that's just another view out to the back. There's 2 cars and another truck on up ahead of that. Okay, go ahead. Just another shot. This is kind of showing the grade and the road that the gentleman had the gravel hauled in. Go ahead. And this is up closer to his house. That's the one truck that we saw up there, and there's 2 more trucks on in the driveway. Go ahead. And there's a pickup truck there. Go ahead. And this is over to the right side where we saw the box truck, and there's one car right there. I don't know if it's running, hood's up, and then there's another car that's not running past that. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. That's the one car that's not running. Go ahead. And this is a trailer. Also, there are 2 open trailers this style with equipment on them. And that's stored back down here behind his house. Go ahead. That's the other trailer. Go ahead. And this is looking down his driveway, and there's 2 trucks here. One is a truck that has a bed on it, and one is a flatbed with a tank on it that is probably 300 gallons. Okay, go ahead. And this is some of the cars that are parked on the property and trucks also. Go ahead. And this is the truck. I think that's on a trailer is probably a 300-gallon tank. Go ahead. That's just another shot of that. Go ahead. And that's looking from the neighbor, if you're facing the house, the neighbor on the left, that's looking from his drive over to the back of the property. Go ahead. And that's just some more shots of the truck and the equipment they carry and other cars. And I think that's enough pictures.
Mr. Jones, Basically, what you're saying is you think the way it would affect you is the number of trucks that are parked there.
Sure.
Now, you remember, automobiles that are parked on anybody's property, as long as they have a license tag on it, they can do that. That's nothing to us.
Well, this is what I've seen there since this man moved there. I've seen 2 one-ton flatbed trucks with tools, 2 one-ton crew cab trucks parked on this area, 2 big box trucks, 1 one-ton truck with flatbed with a 300-gallon tank at least, and 1 2-ton flatbed truck with a 300 to 500-gallon tank, 2 16-foot cargo trailers that have his logo, and 2 open trailers with equipment. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Some of these commercial vehicles are parked just a few feet from the creek, and this is a residential area, not commercial. It has beautiful yards, a nice creek running through it, and now I see commercial-like parking area for these trucks and equipment. And if we look out from our property to our neighbors' yards, we see swing sets, swimming pools, kids playing, and wildlife. Not a single vehicle parked in any other yard, only the one at 2332 North Brunswick. We don't like the way this parking area was put into place with no consideration for the other property owners. It's a quiet cul-de-sac in a residential neighborhood. There's no place for a major home business that creates heavy traffic and stores commercial equipment. We request that the application for 2332 North Brunswick be denied. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Now, just remember, as you come before us, try to stay within the 3-minute lane. Some of the things that you're talking about, we have no control over. So you need to talk about how this business would affect you,
Sir.
your neighborhood. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Next.
My name's Taylor Limbaugh. I live at 2308 North Brunswick Court. First off, I want to just thank everybody for being here to see this issue, and also want to thank them for participating. Regretfully, I have not met Roger. I met his wife while trick-or-treating with my kids, and they seem to be very nice people. But I have 2 children, and we bought this house. This is our first house, growing family. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-week-old, and we moved to this area because it was quiet, and it was calm, and it was peaceful, and it was a place where our kids could safely play. And since they've moved in and been operating out of the home, we've seen a large increase in traffic. You know, there are vehicles we don't recognize. You know, when you have kids, you think about things a little bit differently, and that may or may not fall within the confines of what business licensing and things like that may apply here directly to this conversation, but my kids' safety is my utmost priority. Aside from that, aesthetically, seeing those vehicles parked, lettered, I can't see all of them that are there, but I will say that I typically see more than 2 at a time, and more than 2 per day. So one thing that I would like to be raised as far as a question goes for maybe the committee to evaluate, or for them to evaluate from a business standpoint. It was posed that trucks left on Monday and returned on Wednesday, left on Tuesday, returned on Thursday. If those trucks are out for those period of days, they're somewhere on those nights and on those days in between when they return. If there's some sort of alternative to parking the vehicles there, I would greatly appreciate that. You know, supporting local business is something that, you know, I'd like to do, and I appreciate an entrepreneur. So, you know, I definitely don't want to impede on his continuity of operations, but just from a safety and aesthetic standpoint, I would appreciate some alternatives being evaluated as far as parking.
Point out where you live on this map.
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is the 6th house from Roger there. I'm the first house on the right. It's 2308. There's a white car and a red truck parked in the driveway.
Okay.
Yes, right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Next.
Susan Harris, 2329 North Brunswick. I'm 2 doors over from the property, to the
Is
left.
that correct, where she has the pointer?
Excuse me?
Is that correct, where she has the pointer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
At first, it was loud. Problems, dirt, whatever, you know, on the streets, trucks parked. But now it's all done. It's very quiet. They come, they go. You don't know what they are. If they're here, they're there. I don't see anything. I can see some trucks down the driveway, but you can see our truck, you know, at the end of our driveway. You can see other people's cars parked. I had trouble to begin with, but everything's fine now. He's taking care of all the dirt, the problems, the dragging, engines running. It's done. They come, they go. I guess sometimes I see them, sometimes you don't hear them anymore. So, you know, I had a problem to begin with, but I do not have a problem now. The people next door to him, immediately to the left, they have a very bad medical problem. They couldn't be here, but they have no more problem. They have nothing. They are fine. That's right next door to him. I have never seen his backyard. Looking at the photographs that whoever took those photographs, that was pretty invasive. I mean, they really came into somebody's yard and took pictures. I wouldn't want them doing that to my yard, you know. But, you know, that's where we stand. I had a problem to begin with. I went out and talked to him. This whole problem probably could have been solved if we were just talk to each other, you know. We should have went over there. I should have. I haven't talked to the neighbors about it. But my husband and I should have gone over there and said, you know, but we didn't. But now everything's quiet. He's cleaned up. There's no mud on the street. You can't tell. These cars are back there. I was shocked at how big of a piece of property it is. That's a big piece of property, you know. And I don't know what he's done back there, but it's quiet. Night, it's quiet. You can't hear anything. If the trucks come and go, they just come and they go. So.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Next.
Ms. Harris, you were one of the calls that I received, and originally she was opposed to the request. That was one of the 3 calls that I received.
Yes.
So apparently she's had a change of heart.
I've had a change because he totally cleaned it up, and it took him a while and a lot of money. And I'm shocked that you can, you know, have that many vehicles, but he collects cars. You know, people collect. My husband collects a lot of things, you know. So, you know, not cars.
We understand. Thank you.
So, okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Colin Olson. I live at 1904 Cross Creek Drive, which is next to Ron and Kathy Jones right there.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that.
You live facing Cross Creek. Okay.
On the other side of the creek where those pictures were taken from. So they weren't invasive. I went to the edge of my property and took them. I'm glad to hear that the previous speaker is no longer bothered by the noise, but I feel that all that noise and dirt and mud has been relocated to the back, and I don't feel the same. I live directly behind Mr. Griffin's business on the other side of the creek, so I'm directly affected by both the noise, which routinely wakes me up from the trucks, as well as the really unsightly egress that he built, the gravel parking lot, which is also on a hill, so now it's kind of a gravel junkyard as it's slowly spread down towards the creek. I purchased my house here in 2009, and the most appealing feature of the house was the wooded lot, but also I wanted a quiet location outside of the city where I could raise my 2 children. If I had wanted to live next door to a major business, I probably would have bought a property closer to Broad Street here on the square. So after living here for 10 years, I'm pretty angry that my investment is being ruined with this business. I think Mr. Jones has already shown with those pictures that Mr. Griffin's appeal said that he only has 2 business vehicles. I also live back there, and I think that's either misleading or just outright false, because that's what the requirement is for a major home business. I would make the same claim about having only 3 employees. I see far more movement than 3 people. So I find it convenient that it's only the limit of what is allowed, and I really don't find it to be truthful. The other two requirements of a major home business that I read that I don't feel were addressed in Mr. Griffin's appeal is first the stipulation that the business will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. So I've taken a picture that I sent Ms. Glauner from my back room in my house. So this is the view. So you can imagine what it would have been previous to this gravel egress put in. So my question to the members of the Zoning Appeal Board is, given all of these previous images, and then given this image, which really, it looks far worse in purpose, how much do you think my property has been devalued in the past 2 months? Because I would guess probably $15,000. So this is I don't feel that this is addressed at all in the petition. The other part of the code is it says the business is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. I do not understand how allowing a business that uses liquid chemicals directly next to a creek that by my estimation 134 families live downstream of protects the health and safety of the public, including my 7-year-old who plays in the creek in the summer. So like I said, this final picture is taken from my back library, which is an addition that I added to my house in 2010, a year after I purchased it. And I built this room. It has windows all around it to take advantage of, the beautiful creek, which is the whole reason I purchased the house. So I'd like to ask the members of the zoning committee, if this were your backyard now, would you approve this appeal? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Laura Woods. I live in the next street down, Bella Court North, at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we are also right alongside the creek. We have a lot of wildlife in the area. I could go on and on about all the fox, deer, and turtles and everything that visits our backyard. My biggest concern, which was already addressed, is the chemicals that are back there. This is a preserve just yards from this business. And of course, like gentleman before had mentioned, it has been brought up that there's no dumping or littering or anything in that area. But my biggest concern is it's a business. This is a subdivision. A few years, and I've lived in this subdivision for over 15 years. I do dispute that there was a nursery in that street, and I do know there were horses there. Those were their pets. I think we are zoned for horses because other people have them too. But my main concern is if you let them put a business in there, what do you got to say to the next person that wants to put a business in there? Somebody might want to work on cars in their yard. The next thing you know, we got a bunch of junk cars sitting out there. A few years ago, there was a tree service, and I don't know what happened, but I know the neighbors on Red Mile Road complained about it, and he's not there anymore with his business. So I just uncomfortable with let one business in, then what happens with the next one. So that's why I ask you to reconsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Maria Ramirez, and I live at 2020 Keeneland Drive, and that's right at the entrance of Nelson Downs, so it's about a half a mile from Mr. Griffin's house. Just like what everybody else has said, what I'm really concerned about is that this is not a commercial area. I've lived at my residence for 26 years, and we bought there because we raised a family there and it was nice and quiet. I actually have a horse property right next door to me that's not part of our subdivision, and they're very pleasant to look at, and it's very relaxing and peaceful. And so as far as the concern about what was there before Mr. Griffin moved in with this business, horses and trees aren't really going to be bothering anybody, but these trucks are bothering us. I walk my grandchildren up and down that road. I walk my dogs, I ride my bike. And it's a mile drive on my bike all the way down to the end of Red Mile Road and all the way back to my house. And I'm going to have to be dodging trucks. I'm concerned about where these trucks are being washed. Where are they being cleaned? Where's that runoff going? And I'm concerned about my property value.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello. My name is Amanda Rogers. My husband and I, Leslie, with my son, my daughter, and my 1-year-old granddaughter, bought our home back in November of 2017.
Where do you live?
We are directly behind him, far corner to the left. Well, yeah, directly behind him.
What's the address?
1820 Cross Creek Drive. So, yes, that is our property. So, when my husband and I walked into this house, the first thing that we could see was this lovely sunroom. We walked into it and we could see our backyard. Beautiful, beautiful backyard. Trees. It was just beautiful. We're in the middle of I'm 5 minutes from a Publix, but yet I feel like I'm in the middle of the country. Now, I look out my sunroom, I see there's a broke down car back there. There's the one that they showed the picture of. I believe it's like a Buick Regal. Does not have a tag on it. I also see a red trailer there now. When they first moved in, they used to have beautiful horses. There's 2 horses that were back there. Didn't mind seeing them. I actually looked for them all the time. It was great. Now we look back there, like I said, we see the broke down car. There used to be another car that was broke down, but I did notice a couple days ago it's gone now. But anyways, so now this is what we have to look out at our backyard. When they first moved in, there was a lot of traffic or a lot of trucks coming back to that side. They would park over there and then they would move, and that has all gone away. I don't really hear any noise or anything anymore. But my biggest concern is I bought this property because I love looking out my backyard. I work hard. I work at Centennial Hospital. I come home every day after 10, 12 hours being in a hospital, and I don't want to look at that every day. I'm worried about my property value. I'm worried about if I do want to sell this house one day, is somebody going to come look out this wonderful sunroom that I have and go, oh, wow, look at that car, look at that truck, look at that trailer. You know, I mean, I lived next to something like that when we moved here from Franklin. I lived next door to someone who actually owned a car lot, and they would bring all their cars home. They had, like, no lie, 15 cars in their yard. It was horrible.
Please keep your comments.
I'm sorry. I apologize because, you know, I'm rather kind of upset about it.
Let's not bird walk around here.
Yeah, so anyways, that's my biggest concern. My concern is I don't know about the environmental part. My concern is I'm worried about my property value. I bought this home because of this property. Now I have not this beautiful site to look at anymore.
We understand you. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Hello. We are Tim and Anita Odell. We live at 2324 North Brunswick Court, 2 houses down from Mr. Griffin. I met Mr. Griffin. I went over and talked with him. But just prior to meeting with him, I'd had enough. Because it was loud. Trucks coming in, coming out, and so I jumped up and I ran out there. I saw 2 other trucks parked there. Well, it ended up being the water trucks from the city or the county or whoever supplies our water. So we were laughing and cutting up. Come to find out, they were out there because Mr. Griffin had called them about a pipe that he was getting water out of. And he has a contract to be able to get that water, but in order to get that water, he has to park his trucks on the street to get the water, okay? So however long it takes to fill up those trucks with that water in his property, and he said that was one of the reasons why he bought it. And I'm glad to have him in the neighborhood. That's I've not gotten to meet his wife yet, but the noise, we have grandkids, our neighbors have 2 kids, there's other children in the neighborhood, Taylor's child. For me, it is a matter of safety. I went to look outside my back door to see if I could see the trucks and everything. I could barely see them, but it is the noise, and they do come in at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, sometimes later.
So you're opposed to the trucks, right?
I am totally opposed to the trucks. I would like for him to live there, but the trucks need to go. You tell him about the property taxes. Or property appraisal fees.
I'm Tim Odell. My concern purely is I'm retiring in 44 days. Our home there in what was a very quiet, non-commercial cul-de-sac is my only significant investment. I'm concerned about the value and the safety for my grandbabies.
So you think it would adversely affect your property there?
Absolutely. If I
Okay.
were looking for property and drove over there and saw that, I wouldn't buy the house.
Okay.
So I think it'll hurt that property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Larry Crawford, and I live at 2320 North Brunswick Court. It's 3 houses on the right down from him. And I've been there 28 years, and I'm concerned about my property value and the traffic, the trucks going up and down the road, pulling trailers. I have grandkids, and now I have to watch them all the time because worrying about the traffic. If it ain't the trucks, it's the people that's working there. I don't know how many people he has, but it's a lot more cars than what I think he says going in and out of the property. And I go down my backyard and I look down, I see that the pictures that were shown is the correct pictures. His backyard looks just like the pictures the man showed you. And there's wildlife out there, deer, birds, squirrels, and now it's just disrupting my property value and my peaceful way of life. And I don't approve of it.
And you're opposed also to a business being in your neighborhood, is that correct?
That's correct. There's
Home
there's
business.
no room for a business in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, we're Corey and Tori Sutton. We live at 2321 North Brunswick Court. It's about 4 houses, 4 houses left at the diagram. We are also opposed, like many points opposed before. We're worried about the property value. We currently don't have any children, but we are in the process.
You don't have to tell us everything.
Wow. We're looking forward to having children of our own. But yeah, we don't necessarily want that truck traffic in and out of the neighborhood. And it's not as noisy as it was before, but I still do hear the trucks coming in and out. I work different hours, so sometimes I might be sleeping during the day when the trucks are coming out. Sometimes it's loud enough to wake me up. Most of the time it's not. But more so, we don't want that traffic, and I think a neighborhood, especially in the middle of a cul-de-sac, is not the place for a business.
So you're opposed to a home
Yes,
business?
sir, we are opposed.
Okay, thank you very much. And be careful.
Hello, my name is Alec Lanter. I live at 1901 Cross Creek, which is across Cross Creek Drive from Mr. Olson's house there at 1900. If you want to, okay. We are also, I live there with my wife and my daughter. We are also opposed to this business here, not necessarily because of noise concerns. That has been addressed very quickly, at least from our distance, primarily for health and environmental reasons. My daughter does play with Mr. Olson's daughter in the creek, occasionally goes down to the Joneses' house. They have easier access to that creek and plays back there. I don't really know much about pressure washing, but I have seen the large tanks of water, and I assume they're just water. I don't know. I also am concerned about repairs going on back there that close to a protected wildlife area. So I am opposed to an easement for commercial business there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been standing up a long time back there.
I waited a little while to get up. My name is Ben Thigpen. I live at 1913 Cross Creek Drive, which is across the street right there at the curve. And from my kitchen table, if my front door is open, I can see the cars or the trucks. So it's not just outside. So I'm opposed. So go ahead and answer your question. I'm opposed to it, to the business being there for aesthetic reasons, for property value reasons, for what's going on in that creek. I have no idea. And I mean, I'm a sales rep. I'm out in town all day. I see businesses all the time. I bought a house where I bought it to not see a business when I came home. And also, you know, there's very few places here still in town that you can have the size lots that we have and appreciate the trees that are there without being stacked on top of your neighborhood, able to, you know, split from from one house to the other. So I'm opposed to it because I want to protect what we have in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlin Hopkins, and my husband and I are residents of 1903 Cross Creek Drive, directly across from Mr. Olson's 1904 Cross Creek Drive, which backs up directly to the property. And I'm going to be really quick. The noise.
I'm sorry, you live where? Say that.
Right where your cursor is.
Okay.
The noise while the gravel lot was going in was excruciating, and it was extremely loud all hours of the night. We don't have kids, but we do have dogs. And that was a concern, that they were in distress at all hours of the night. And then number two, property value. I've been a resident of 1903 Cross Creek Drive for 10 years now. Just recently purchased the home in the last year. Think it's a wonderful neighborhood. Know that it is serene and is an escape away from the city. And if more commercial businesses are allowed to go in, it will no longer be a safe haven for my future family. So I oppose.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well said.
My name is Linda Seabolt, and I live at 1900 Cross Creek Drive, right directly behind this gentleman. This is my husband, John. And I'm really concerned about the wildlife. And I have an incident report that I filed one day because I witnessed them putting liquid stuff from a tank truck that was going down into the creek. So I called the sheriff's department because I was concerned about this. It's been an eyesore over there, and we have lived there since 2007. We lived there. We moved there because it was nice, and there's really, great environment there. I'm also concerned about the kids, like they said, on the other end of the street, because there's a lot of activity over there, and I see it all the time. I mean, it's right out my back. I have 2 windows right there, and I watch birds. I don't see the cranes in the creek. I don't see the wood ducks in the creek behind my house anymore because of all of this, and I'm definitely opposed to having that business here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Both of you.
I'm John Seabolt, 1900 Cross Creek. I oppose this. I don't want to step on a man's livelihood. It's the last thing I ever want to do. But this is a residential area. I'm retired. I stay at home most of the time. I get up, I go outside, and the first thing I see are trucks. The other day, they started a truck up. It sat there and idle for 15 minutes. They pulled it up the hill, parked it, it sat and idle for another 15 minutes. And the geography is such that, the land is such that the fumes actually roll down. I smell diesel fuel in our game reserve. I'm opposed to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Adcock. I live at 1912 Cross Creek Drive. I'm Ron and Kathy Jones' next door neighbor. I've lived there for 20 years. And we lived in Wilson County before that. And I've got personal experience with businesses coming into a residential neighborhood. We spent 11 months trying to sell our home after they allowed a business to go in there, and it drove our property value down between $10,000 and $15,000. So we just drove back and forth. I started a church up here, and so we drove back and forth for that 11 months. We finally sold it. We moved in here. We shopped between online and looking at houses, over 80 houses. We found this property because of the backyard, the view, the neighborhood was so quiet, peaceful, and we just fell in love with it. Before that, and I love people who are entrepreneurs. I had a drywall business before that, but I didn't bring it to the neighborhood. I ran it in a different place. And while I appreciate a business, I don't believe it should be, this type of business should be allowed to be run in a neighborhood. So I oppose it, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Commissioner, come around.
The applicant asked if they would get a chance to say anything.
What?
The applicant asked for another chance to
Yeah.
speak.
Go ahead. Is this in your district, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. My name is Chanto Sri. I live in 1987 Branson Drive, and the reason I'm here just to introduce myself because the constituent called me when they have something, every once in a while. So that is the reason to be here, just listen to them. So this is my brief statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to say something else, Mr. Griffin? Come around.
By the way, I wanted to add something. The county engineer wanted me to point out that the creek that runs along the back property line is classified as a freshwater forest shrub wetland per the U.S. Fish and Wildlife information, meaning that you cannot dump anything into the creek. It's also located in a FEMA floodplain, but just keep that in mind. No one should be dumping anything, even if it's just water, into the creek because it's classified as a freshwater creek.
Okay, what I want to say is this. First thing is, I appreciate everybody that came. I have nothing against nobody for their opinions of me having a business or not having a business. But you gave me a statement on the property value when you came up the second time. Would you please repeat that?
Well, the board, and you're fully aware that anyone who would indicate when they come before you and indicate that it would affect their property values, you actually have to be a qualified property appraiser to make that
We
statement.
know that.
You know what?
We know that.
No, that wasn't the part that I was asking for. What I was asking for was the part that where the value of my property versus the value of my property that I moved there versus the value right now. It's what you was telling me when you came up the second time. What I paid for the property is now actually $40,000 equity that's in my property right now. So what I'm saying that to say to the people that feel like they have something against their property value, mine's going up, yours shouldn't go down. Second thing is I want to say is this. I'm not dumping anything. We only use water. We don't use no chemical. We don't wash anything at my house, nothing. So the day that the lady is referring to, I was washing a tank with Dawn soap, and she seen the soap suds and called the police. That's what that was. But other than that, we don't do any washing at this property at all. Not even my personal trucks. So I just want to make sure we got that.
Mr. Griffin, thank you. We appreciate you clearing that up.
One other thing I want to state. We do not have 6 or 7 vehicles. There's 1 flatbed truck, 2 vans, and 3 trailers. That's all we own. So all these other trucks that y'all naming, they're not mine. That's all I own.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Have you had your chance? We're not getting into a debate. Just, you had your chance, right? Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to get into all that. We're going to close the public hearing. Gary, do you have a...
Mr. Chairman, based on the testimony and based on the evidence that's been presented to us tonight here, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request based on that it's going to be an adverse effect on the neighborhood.
Well, there are 2 or 3 things here. Mr. Griffith, I really think you've got a lot of neighbors that are opposed to a home-based business and trucks in their neighborhood. Now, one of the things I try to stress to everyone before you come before us, meet in the neighborhood with the folks, answer all these questions, have a good discussion about it. And it might take 2 or 3 sessions to do that. I think there's a lot of misconception on what we can do as a board, some of the things you brought up, we have no control over. However, and this too, you've got to make sure if you have a business out there, if you live in that neighborhood, you can't pour anything into the creek. That's illegal, even if it's water. I mean, that's just the way things are this day and time. And I don't think that that you have any chemicals in your truck. I believe that. But probably putting water there was not a good idea. We can take into consideration the feelings of the neighborhood, and it seems to be very strong out there at this time. They are opposed to a home-based business of any kind in the neighborhood. They seem to think that it will have an adverse effect upon their neighborhood, and that is a point that we can take into consideration. The possibility of safety issues, that would be more for the law enforcement to take up rather than a Board of Zoning Appeals. Dumping anything into the creek would also be another issue for law enforcement as opposed to us. The number of employees may be a little bit stretched there, too many to have for this type of business. There were several people at the site, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if there are 4 or 5 people that are employees, you may be over what we should have. So those are some things that you can consider in this, or anything else you might want to bring up. I will accept a motion on this unless you need some more discussion.
And my motion was that to deny the request based on it's going to be an adversely affected area.
And to include these items?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion to be denied with these items as a part of it.
I'd like to say one thing.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
No, my reasoning, which is on top of his, it's just not, a neighborhood business is supposed to be pretty much unseen and unheard because it's a residential neighborhood. And there's no way I see it meets item 4, which makes it compatible with the neighborhood. And for that reason, I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you clearing that up. Any further discussions or comments? Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is a unanimous decision and denied. The next, and we thank everybody for being here. We thank all of your comments and those who have requested the business. We appreciate your position as well. The next item of business is a request by Maddie Roxy Fields, who is requesting a special exemption of the placement of a single wide resident. Now, this is pre-existing, but they're cutting back on the size of the lot is the reason that it's coming to us. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-3 involves the property located at 6571 Almaville Road. It's a request for special exception approval.
They're not able to hear you. Can you get closer there? The acoustics in here are terrible anyway.
It's on.
I'm sorry about that. Tried to get that done years, but we don't seem to make any progress. What's wrong with you commissioners? Can't you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. Application 2019-3 involves the property at 6571 Almaville Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the placement of a single-wide residence on a tract less than 5 acres on a property located in the RM zone. And this is the property currently. The mobile home is already in place and has been established for many years. The applicant is the owner of this property, and they are in the process of subdividing the property so that they can grant their family member a 0.7 acre parcel with the single wide on it. And they're in the process of the plat review, and before the plat can be approved where they can create that 0.7 acre parcel, they have to get approval for the single wide because it's being taken down below the 5 acres that our zoning ordinance allows. So you will not see any kind of visible changes, but it would permit that 0.7 acre parcel to have a single wide placed on it. Conditional uses run with the land and do not expire. So these are photos of the surrounding area as well as the established single wide that's on the property, and there is an existing home on the property as well, but this portion's not part of this application because it will remain over 5 acres. And we are only discussing the single wide here. And we have received one phone call. It was an informational call. They did not indicate being in favor or in opposition of the request. And this is the plat. So you can see that they've drawn the 7.7 acre parcel. They've shown the location of the single wide. It does meet the setbacks required for the RM zone. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this? If you just stand there, wait a minute. Do we have any questions? Any of you all, pretty well know what this is. Okay. Bill, did you have any questions on it? Okay. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on it? We'll move that it be approved. We have a second. Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. Did you have any questions? No. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. The next item of business we have is the Camden Properties, LLC, who is requesting a special exemption approval for a venue. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-4 involves the property located at 11015 Patterson Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a rural retreat upon a property located in the RL zone. It's an 80-acre property or 86-acre property, and it's currently developed with agricultural structures. The applicant has a paved parking area, and they are seeking approval for the rural retreat, which would allow them to make available to the general public the venue for weddings, family reunions, parties. If the board chooses to approve the rural retreat, they would have to go through site plan review that would require approval from the Planning Commission. And as at that point, they can demonstrate meeting a lot of the criteria we have established for rural retreats. Parking, fire protection. The use cannot be established at this property until they obtain site plan approval and all the appropriate permits, building permits, septic permits. So this is just the first step of the process in converting these existing agricultural buildings into an event venue. So we have received one informational call regarding this. So these are photos of the area. It's a very large parcel. We were not able to enter the property when we posted the sign, so I was only able to get photos from the driveway. And so the applicant has kind of broke down what the proposed uses would be for each of the structures that are already located on the property. So this is a gravel parking area that's already existing. This is a paved parking area. So these areas will need to be reviewed during the site plan review to make sure that it is adequate. The event venue will be located in this structure, and they propose to use this structure as venue storage. The other two existing structures, or three, would be used for agricultural equipment storage. And that concludes our presentation.
Any questions on that? Do we have anyone here representing this? If you'll come around, please. Come around to the podium. If you'll give us your name and any additional information you might have.
My name is Patty James, and I'm representing the Camden Properties LLC. This is going to be, to start off with, the building that is going to be used for the event was already existing on the property when he bought it. And at that point, that's when he, after being the owner for a while, thought that this might be a good avenue to go down with this building. It's going to be something that the family will only do. There is going to be no overnight stays or anything like that. It will only be rented for the weekends and no more than 25 times per year. It will not house more than probably 125 people. So if it's rented, it's only going to be rented for one weekend or for one night for that whole weekend. I know that there are places that have something on Friday night and then Saturday night something new will come in. That is not the intent. This is on Patterson Road, is very, very low traffic. Cosmetically, they have, put fences up, cleared the land, doing a lot of things that really makes it very pleasing to the area. There's no neighbors around that area other than there is a mobile home next door, and a nice fence was put up between the property owner and the land, so they seem to be very fine about anything that's going on over there. I'm not aware of really anything close to this area. There's not going to be any outside as far as noise. If there is a wedding that has a band or, anything like that, I don't think it's going to really affect the other people in the area. There is no audio for outside, so it would only be in the inside that you could even hear, possibly the music. Not to stay open later than most of the events would be out of that area before 11 o'clock, no overnight stays. But mostly it's an area that's just very rural, and there's just not a lot of people around that it would affect, and the road is not heavily traveled either, and so that's kind of...
Tell me, what's the building there? We only see the roof. What is it? Is it a barn? Where the venue's going to be? The event.
It's not a barn. It was a big metal building, and it's still a big metal building.
Okay.
So he's not changing that at all.
Patty, if you would, just go back and tell them that the codes department and the fire department, well, there may be some requirements, and they may want
Right.
to check. I think if you're going to sell alcohol or food in the venue or in the event, whatever, I think it may require that it may have to be a sprinkle building if it's not now. So you may want to just check into some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, and we have, and, you know, there'll definitely be a contract. There'll be someone always on site during any event that takes place, but there'll also be insurance that has to be purchased by whoever rents the building. So we're aware that that would be something that we would need to take care of before we rented it, and would do that as well.
It's mainly going to be like weddings or family reunions and
Yes.
those type of things.
Yes, and hopefully conventions. It's a big area. It doesn't look just to be for weddings, so it has the ability to be something that a larger business could come into and do, you know, some type of conference if they were interested.
Questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Joe Michotto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Unanimous approval. Anything else to come before the board?
No, sir.
We are adjourned. Thank you.